What's going on, hockey friends? We are back, and would you believe it? Good things are finally happening in Philadelphia. Matvei Michkov is a Flyer, and in today's video, we'll be going over how he might change the fortunes of this unfortunate franchise. So heading into the draft, we pretty much knew that Michkov wasn't going in the top 3. It was basically a fact that the top 3 would be a combination of Bedard going first, then Karlsson and Fantilli, but I remember making my first Michkov video over 3 years ago now, and for me, it was always set in stone that the top 2 would be Bedard and Michkov, and it saddens me that we didn't get the battle between the two of who would go first overall. But when San Jose, Montreal and Arizona passed on Michkov, allowing the Flyers a free run at him at 7th overall, it felt like they finally caught a break, because Matvei Michkov is, and has always been, a generational talent in my book. The pick is already a steal, even though we might have to wait 3 years to see him in the NHL, but once he does come over, it's gonna be good night for a lot of NHL defensemen, because Matvei Michkov is special. So, what makes him so good? Why are people so high on him? And how does he change the Flyers going forward? Let's get into it. Now, the word generational gets thrown around a lot these days, and I think for some people it's starting to lose its value. And there was a lot of talk about how there are 2 generational players in this draft in Bedard and Michkov. And I still agree with that, and I've made my opinion on that very clear as well. With Matvei Michkov, you're getting a player with so much talent in his locker and someone who can do it all in the offensive zone. Do you need someone to carry then over the blue line and create space for teammates with deceptiveness and neat passes? He can do that. Do you need someone who can just score goals at will with a deadly wrister? He can do that. Do you need lacrosse goals? There you go. He's also incredibly smart, and you get the idea that everything he does has a clear and thought out purpose, and then he ends that with a killer pass or an incredible shot. And he also has such a good net front presence and understanding of finding spaces, and he just knows how to be a great goal scorer. I think you get the idea. He can do whatever you want him to do in the offensive zone, and only Connor Bedard is the better goal threat from this draft. And you look at his stats from the KHL this season, he struggled a bit with SK St. Petersburg, but when he went on his loan stint to Sochi, that's where he really showed how good he is. Statistically, he was the best player on this team, which was the worst team in the entire KHL. They only won 11 out of 68 games, so he didn't have the best help either. The one thing that isn't a high-end skill of Michkov is his skating. It's not bad by any means, but it's also not on a level where it's going to wow you and be the one takeaway you have after watching him. And who knows, by the time he does come over to the NHL, that might be something he's worked on, and that will make him even scarier. I don't think he's going to become this top tier skater. We're not going to see him challenge McDavid in any fastest skater competitions, but it's not going to be something that massively weighs him down either. He's also not the most engaging in the defensive end, and sometimes it looks like he just wants to cherry pick, and that's not going to hold up in the NHL, and especially in Philadelphia, where I feel like their identity has been built upon being ferocious and tough and just a pain in the ass, and it's something I think a lot of their fans resonate with as well. Now, given Matvei Michkov's ungodly skill, maybe that's something the Flyers fans can accept, but still, we gotta be honest and neutral here, and that's one of his weaknesses. But when you look at the bigger picture, what we have with Matvei Michkov is an incredibly, and I can't stress this enough, incredibly talented forward who can do it all when it comes to the NHL. For me, there's no doubt about the level he can reach. A first-line winger in the NHL that you build your entire team around, and someone who will carry you for years to come. I've seen the comparisons to Nikita Kucherov, and while it's the easy and kind of lazy connection to make because they're both Russian right wingers, I simply have to agree with it. Matvei Michkov is probably the best talent to come out of Russia since Ovechkin, but he doesn't play like him, and Kucherov is a pretty good player himself, so I think that's an acceptable comparison. So the Flyers were lucky enough to pick him up at 7th overall, and it's been an organization that has had their fair share of trouble in recent years. So how important is Matvei Michkov to the Flyers? Well, Daniel Briere hasn't been on the job for too long, but he's already made the easiest decision of his general manager career. Last summer I made a video about the Flyers' future and I was far from optimistic. I didn't agree with the quick rebuild route Chuck Fletcher wanted to take, and I said they needed a complete rebuild, and 12 months later, here we are. Daniel Briere has come in and started the teardown. Getting rid of Kevin Hayes was a necessity, but I have to say, I was a bit surprised to see that Ivan Provorov was stealthed as well, but I'm not against it. But a rebuild needs that elite prospect, the one you'll lean on and cling your hopes to during the dark days that a rebuild typically entails. And while you have Cam York, Bobby Brink, Tyler Forster, Cutter Gauthier and so on, I don't think they're the kind of players that would be pillars of the team you're trying to build. They're complement, and they are very, very good complement, but I don't think they're more than that. They're not franchise players. Matvei Michkov is that, and he's one of the best pillars or franchise players around. The one thing that is less than ideal about him is obviously the contract he has over in the KHL. That runs to 2026 unless there's an out. We don't really know about that, but if I'm being honest, I don't think that matters at all. Like Michkov said himself, I guess they'll start winning when he comes over, and you have to love that attitude. It's not like the Flyers are in a win now mode, and for 7th overall picks, because we have to remember that Matvei Michkov was a 7th overall pick, they typically won't be instant impact players anyway, so waiting 3 years for Michkov instead of whoever else the Flyers would have picked is a massive win. Michkov will spend these years developing and getting better, stronger, and once he does come over, I think we'll see someone with the same impact Kirill Kaprizov had when he came over to Minnesota, but even better. The Flyers being in rebuild mode now also means they're not done with the early first round picks either. I project them to have a top 10 pick in the 2024 draft and most likely in 2025 as well. They'll be able to stockpile top prospects, so by the time Michkov comes to the NHL, I think we'll see a Flyers team that is one of the most young and exciting teams in the league. And of course, having a young and exciting team won't make you a contender just like that. I don't think John Tortorella is the coach for the future, and you never know what's gonna happen on the way. But with Matvei Michkov, the Flyers are certainly on the right path. And there you go guys, Matvei Michkov to the Flyers. What do you think? Will he be the Messiah, or will he be another wasted prospect? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one.